Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back on another video from NC Hammer 23. I thought it'd be fun to check out this ranking your Naruto hot takes. So I'm guessing he asked people to give in hot takes. What did I react to recently with someone checking those out? But anyway, be interested to see what people have as a hot take and then see how NC Hammer perceives it. Let's get it.
Hot takes. Let's be real. We all have them. Some of us believe that the war arc was the best arc in Naruto. Some of us believe that Sasuke should have died at the end of Shippuden. Some of us believe that Sakura should have ended up with Rock Lee, which actually isn't so much of a hot take and more just the objective truth. But while I sit in this chair every single day and fire off my hot takes at you guys, and you're usually pretty nice about them, I feel as though there's a disconnect here. I get to say all my hot takes, and you guys listen so well, but I never get to sit down and hear your hot takes. I mean, sure, when I meet people on the streets or at cons, I get to hear their hot takes, but that's not enough. I want to put my ear to the ground, to the chest of my average follower, and truly dig to the core of what your Naruto and Boruto hot takes are. Because I'm a man of the people, and I need to know how you guys are feeling. Which is why yesterday I took to my ever-useful community tab and typed out a little message asking my followers to give me their Naruto and Boruto hot takes. And let me just say, things got a little bit spicy. I'm gonna come out and say it. Some of the takes placed in the comment section of this community tab post are awesome, while others are a bit lazier and a bit more convoluted and also just highly common. See, because while there's nothing wrong with having a hot take that other people agree with, I feel like intrinsically, if I hear this hot take over and over and over again, it's not really a hot take anymore. It's like a lukewarm to room temperature take. It's like, okay, man, yeah, everybody agrees. It's like, hey, Kaguya being revealed at the end of the 4th Great Shinobi World War was a bad ending for Naruto. That's not a hot take. That's just the objective truth. Which is why today I'm going to be going through the hot takes given to me by my followers.
All the way to F?
Them
my
grades
God.
From F tier to S tier. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we're making a tier list of your Naruto and Boruto hot takes so that we can once and for all crown what is the greatest hot take in the Naruto-Boruto fandom, and possibly lay to rest a couple of hot takes that are no longer hot or are just objectively false. But before we get to tiering anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you love the idea of me breaking down anime hot takes, you're gonna love my other channel because I'm doing this exact video, but for the Weeb Commander, where I talk about all other anime that aren't Naruto or Boruto. So if you don't get your hot take read in this video, if you go place a hot take in my Weeb Commander community post, you still might get a chance. And if you just like the idea of anime hot takes being thrown out into the universe, then you're gonna love my podcast, Otaku's Anonymous, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened in anime and manga this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So, first off, this is the first tier list we've ever made on this channel. I could technically probably do a stream doing a tier list of every Naruto character, or every Naruto villain, or every Naruto weapon, or every Naruto jutsu. Streaming's a lot, and I don't need people yelling me at real time when I put Kabuto in F tier, but everybody wants him in B tier or something. Now, you can only yell at me in the comments, and that I can live with. Now, the beauty of doing this in the format of a tier list, as opposed to a ranking, is that I can just scroll my community post answers and not worry about trying to slot them into numbers representative of how good I believe the hot take is. But that's a bit too much BTS. Let's get on with the video. But before we get into the video, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that this post garnered 1,200 comments. So if I don't get around to your hot take, I apologize. There is physically no way I could get around to even 1% of these answers. Actually, we'll probably end up doing about 1%. But since we're talking about the number one, let's talk about the number one comment on my feed. A comment left by RavenDark347 that said the light novel should have gotten a good adaptation before Boruto aired. The studio really missed a chance on this one. And let me just tell you, there's a reason this is the number one comment. Raven Dark is cooking. Let's quickly break down how the light novels have been treated by both Naruto and Boruto and why it's so wrong. But not as wrong as the average fan thinks it is. See, while only 2 of the light novels have ever gotten a manga adaptation, those being Sasuke Retsudan and the Steam Ninja Scrolls, much more than 2 of the light novels have been adapted into the anime. See, because while the Steam Ninja Scrolls and Sasuke Retsudan were both adapted into Boruto, those weren't even the first light novels that Boruto adapted, though they were the most famous,
Okay.
if famous is the correct word, as the adaptation of both of these light novels was seriously lacking. Boruto's adaptation of Sasuke Retsudan not only wasn't that well animated, but it also made the Chimera-esque Edo Tensei dragons that Sasuke was supposed to be fighting against basically just dinosaurs. It was an interesting choice. They also forgot to adapt some of the cooler and stronger moments from Sakura throughout the course of Sasuke Retsudan, and missed out on a lot of the feeling of romance between Sakura and Sasuke.
I did not realize that was what that was. I mean, I did stop watching the Boruto manga, but I did see clips of like Sasuke fighting Velociraptors. It's like, what? But then it was meant.
That Sasuke Retsudan is supposed to establish. See, because while Sasuke Retsudan is technically about Sasuke trying to get the polar particles to help Naruto cure his possible chakra illness, the real core proponent of Sasuke Retsudan is to solidify that Sakura and Sasuke love each other very much. Now, as for the Steam Ninja Scrolls, there is a reason that Kishimoto decided to mangafy this light novel even after Boruto had made an anime adaptation. And that's because the original Boruto anime adaptation gave us the Spark Notes version. It was short, cut out a lot of the more interesting talking points, changed a couple of crucial talking points, and overall was just kind of a general bastardization of the light novel. Though it did obviously accomplish the goal of Mirai, Kakashi, and Might Guy going on a hot springs trip that eventually gets derailed into Joshinism, which raises a couple of crucial points about whether or not Joshinism is something that's achievable for people outside of Hidan, a question that we never actually get answered. But while the adaptation of those two light novels is certainly the most famous, everything that happens from episode 1 of Boruto to episode 37 of Boruto is a light novel adaptation.
Oh, it's not out
5,
yet.
I guess you could call them prequel light novels in Boruto, which go
Sorry, I'm going to pause this. Didn't realize this. Oh, wow. Okay, so the Steam Ninja Scrolls, the manga, out in August. And then there's a volume 2 in November. Ooh, alright.
Of the new leaves soaring through the blue sky, A Call from the Shadows, Those Who Illuminate the Night of Shinobi, School Trip, Bloodwind Records, and The Last Day at the Ninja Academy. And to break it down into individual stories, the first light novel basically just introduced the new generation of characters like Boruto, Shikadai, Chocho, Inojin, Sarada, Sumire, the rest of them. The second light novel introduces the Shin Uchiha arc. The third light novel focuses on Sumire's backstory and Nue being created by Danzo and Sumire's father using Hashirama's cells, and Sumire's father forcing the will of destroying Konoha onto her because her father was blindly loyal to Danzo, who Konoha kind of killed. The fourth light novel focuses on the new Konoha 12's trip to the Mist Village and the foundation of the new Blood Mist Village and the new Seven Swordsmen of the Mist. That introduces characters like Yagura to the mix. In the fifth light novel, known as The Last Day at Shinobi Academy, covers everybody graduating from the Shinobi Academy. And this is the shortest out of all of the novels that it's only adapted at episodes 36 and 37. But it's basically like the final test of the New Age Konoha 12 trying to test out of the Shinobi Academy. I'm gonna stop calling them the New Age Konoha 12 because there's not 12 of them, but the amount of them is somewhat obscure.
What happened
like,
to
do
him?
I count the anime canon people? And I'm pretty sure that Denki is manga canon if I remember correctly, but like is Iwabe? I'm just gonna call them the Konoha 7 because it's Team 10, Team 7, and Sumire. Just ignore the fact that Sumire has her own team of Chakra Cat Girl and Chakra Trumpet Girl. But still, the important takeaway from all this is that the Steam Ninja Scrolls and Sasuke Retsudan are not the first light novels that Boruto has adapted. Though, are they the light novels that we wanted adapted? No, not really. These light novels were created so that the manga had a bit more time to get ahead of the anime before the anime started chomping into manga canon content. So not necessarily exactly what we're looking for. But the history of starting a Naruto IP's anime with light novel content is not actually unique to Boruto. See, because before the prologue arc or the Land of Waves arc was made into manga, it was actually the light novel Naruto Innocent Hearts Demonic Blood that was later, after it was written by Masashi Kishimoto, adapted into a manga that was adapted into the anime.
Whoa,
yeah, the first 4 volumes of Naruto that cover the
stuff.
Land of Waves arc, is all a light novel. Well, originally. And Naruto's adaptation of light novels isn't only specific to the anime. See, in fact, the last, Boruto, Naruto the movie, and Blood Prison were all light novels before they were adapted into an anime movie. This is why Blood Prison is universally agreed upon to be the best of the non-canon movies. Actually, this is why Blood Prison exists in an awkward space between is it canon, is it not? Because light novels are canon, but all movies outside of Boruto, Naruto the movie, and the last are considered non-canon. And while the Boruto movie and the last are incredible pieces of fiction, they also left out a couple of really important details from their light novel adaptations. As one of the most important plot lines in the last, at least to somebody like me, was the introduction of the Otsutsuki's autonomous puppets. Puppets that the Otsutsuki could create that would protect an area and operate autonomously. And that Kankuro, after battling against these puppets, found a way to make his chakra threads so incredibly thin he could control his puppets from kilometers away. A massively important update in the power scaling of ninjutsu all across the globe. Never once mentioned.
He's not going to get through many hot takes, but I do appreciate the detail he's going in on
pretty
this.
much exactly what happened in the anime, so
love learning stuff.
All good there. We're talking a lot about Boruto and the movies here. Did Naruto ever take a break from its manga canon and adapt a light novel? Well, yeah. Kind of. Well, actually, not even kind of. Yes, they did. See, Naruto's anime actually ends with the adaptation of 3 light novels. Those being Shikamaru Hiden, A Cloud Drifting in Silent Darkness, the story of how Sai and Ino hook up in the Land of Silence, Sasuke Shinden, the Book of Sunrise, that tells the story of the Land of Hot Water and the Shinoiki clan. You know, the clan with the Katsurugan that was forced down into the ravine with the bubbling hot iron water that Sasuke stumbles upon and realizes that one of them is in some underground fighting ring and ends up battling against them and saving them. Yeah, that story told at the end of Naruto is an adaptation of Sasuke's Shinden. And then Naruto's anime does actually end with its 3rd and final adaptation of a light novel, Konoha Hiden, A Perfect Day for a Wedding, that tells the day of when Naruto and Hinata got married and when Naruto asked Saruka to walk him down the aisle. Now, technically, this does mean that only 2 out of the 4 Hiden novels have ever been adapted into the anime space, as Kakashi Hiden, Sakura Hiden, Gaara Hiden, and Akatsuki Hiden have never been adapted, but almost all of the Shinden novels, at least in some capacity, have been adapted. See, the most famous of the Shinden novels is not Sasuke Shinden. It's Itachi Shinden, Book of Bright Light, and Itachi Shinden, Book of Dark Night. Now, while the majority of these Shinden novels have not been adapted, key aspects have been taken from the Shinden novel and applied into things like Kakashi's backstory. And thus, the Shinden novels have been used as kind of guidelines when talking about Itachi Shisui or Kakashi's backstories, though never directly adapted themselves. However, technically, these aren't the only Shinden novels, as there's also the Naruto Shinden novels, of which only 2 have been adapted, and one of their adaptations is my favorite thing Naruto as an IP has ever done. See, one of these Shinden novels we've already talked about, Konoha Shinden Steam Ninja Scrolls.
I'm gonna
the
get
Shinden
those
novel that's been adapted in Boruto is Naruto Shinden Parent and Child Day, where Naruto runs around all day trying to get Himawari a Kurama doll, and we see all of the Konoha 12 hanging out with their children. Chocho and Choji enter an eating competition, Shikadai and Shikamaru complain about things together, and Naruto tries to be a good father for once in his life. It's adorable. It's genuinely my favorite thing Naruto's ever created, and if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It will heal your soul. Now, I know for a fact that Shikamaru Shinden has never been adapted, as Shikamaru Shinden revolves around the land of Stone Daimyo trying to start a 5th Great Shinobi World War. And Shikamaru diffuses by bringing all of the world leaders from all across the continent together and then putting Naruto in front of them to give a speech about love, peace, and also the sharing of technology. But admittedly, I haven't watched like 50% of the Boruto anime canon episodes, so I don't know if they've adapted Sasuke Shinden, which is a story about Sasuke and Konohamaru getting blown up on a train and then a bunch of misfortune happens. Now, outside of everything that I've already yapped about, the only other light novel that's ever been adapted that doesn't lie in another series is Naruto Mission Protect the Waterfall Village.
This
is a story about Naruto and Team 7 protecting the Waterfall Village from essentially a coup focusing around the usage of hero water, which allows for those who drink it to increase their chakra X-fold. However, whatever X-fold they increase their chakra, they decrease their lifespan. Now, the reason that I saved this light novel for last is because out of all of the light novel adaptations, this one's the worst. It's not accurate.
I remember liking this. This is an OVA, isn't it? Like, you could get this on DVD, and it had like a separate little story with it as well,
The
huh?
light novel is massively different from the story they tell in the
okay.
anime, though the general premise of both the light novel and the anime adaptation is similar enough that you go, okay, yeah, they're adapting the light novel. Which means, out of 28 light novels, Naruto, Boruto, and the movies have adapted 16 of the light novels, if you don't include
Wow.
Itachi Shinden, which I don't. Which is a lot more than people realize.
That's-
Now, this is
yeah, that's
because the
mad.
light novels that they
Okay.
haven't adapted are the most popular ones. Kakashi Retsudan, Naruto Retsudan, Itachi Shinden, Akatsuki Hiden, Kakashi Hiden, Sakura Hiden, and Gaara Hiden. And if I could go back to the original comment here, they said that we should have gotten a good adaptation of the Naruto light novels before the Boruto anime was released. Now, this would technically limit what light novels we could have been given in that moment. C5, well, technically all 6 of the Hiden light novels happened during the blank period, the 15 or so years between the ending of the 4th Great Shinobi World War and the beginning of Boruto's manga. But so does Sasuke Shinden, and thus we kind of did get a couple of the light novels adapted before the Boruto anime started, as we got Sasuke Shinden, Shikamaru Hiden, and Konoha Hiden. Now, if we're talking before the Boruto anime was to air, this would mean that stories like the second iteration of the Shinden light novels couldn't be adapted because those take place about halfway through part 1 of Boruto. And the same can be said for the Retsudan series, which would mean Sasuke Shinden, Shikamaru Shinden, Kakashi Retsudan, and Naruto Retsudan couldn't be adapted until Boruto had begun. And thus essentially what this comment is asking for is for 4 light novels to be adapted prior to the beginning of Boruto's anime. And honestly, I agree, though I don't think the problem is as pressing as most people realize. I've made it incredibly well known that Akatsuki Hiden is one of my favorite out of all of the light novels. To get a retrospective look into who they were as people and why they joined up with the Akatsuki after the ending of Naruto, but before moving on from the story that they were known for, Shippuden, would have been really cool. On top of this, seeing Gaara Hiden animated and understanding why he doesn't have a wife over in the Hidden Sand, even though he's the most eligible bachelor for thousands of miles, would have also been cool to see, and it would have given us a better look into who Gaara was as a Kazekage. Sakura Hiden tells the story
that
of
would've been cool.
Sakura and Sasuke finally getting together, something that we got for Naruto and Hinata in the form of the last, and a perfect day for a wedding. So it probably would have been fair to Sasuke and Sakura fans out there who probably
Wait, was the light novel called The Last Naruto the movie? Because why would the light novel be called The Movie and then turned into a movie? If it's a book, okay.
outnumber Naruto and Hinata fans. And lastly, Kakashi Hiden shows Kakashi taking the mantle as Hokage 2 years after the 4th Great Shinobi World War. And
Or did they just publish in English when they realized the movie was going to come out, so then they thought it would help sell by...
his creation of Purple Lightning, which would give some important perspective to those who only read the manga or watch the anime as to why Kakashi's hand is now purple and he seemingly is able to use Chidori all over again. It also allows us to see some character growth from the fan base's favorite character who has to get over his reluctance to becoming Hokage by accepting the mantle 2 whole years after it was given to him. But all in all here, we're only really talking about like 32 episodes of anime, which would have been cool, but people were already yelling at Naruto for when they started adapting this filler content before ending the story after the conclusion of the 4th Great Shinobi World War. So while looking retroactively back at this and knowing that we're probably never going to get an anime adaptation of these light novels now, I would tend to agree. In the moment, this isn't what anybody was looking for. So all in all, B tier take. I talked about that one way longer.
I was going to say, how are you going to
anticipated
do
In fact,
many
that
more
could-
after this?
That could fully be its own video. We gotta do a couple more at least. So let's move on to Christian Davis 5362, who says this show set up too many interesting things like clans, weapons, villages, characters, plot lines, etc. that never get realized to a satisfying degree. And I'm afraid this one kind of falls into the categorization of yeah, we know. Something I talked about recently in my Boruto is saving Naruto video is that one of the biggest strengths of Naruto is the depth of its characters and its universe. The Konoha 12 at the beginning of part 1 of Naruto were one of the most diverse and interesting anime groups in history. Every single character that wasn't a woman was uniquely motivated and incredibly
He's
cool.
not wrong,
And at least one of those women was actually kind of cool. I'm looking at Hinata, not really Sakura or Ino. They don't get interesting until part 2. I lied. Ino never gets interesting. Not saying that's how I wanted it, just speaking on reality.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, we would all love a 30-chapter breakdown on how the 7 Swords of the Mist were created and why they were so uniquely powerful. Sure, we all want to know why Kisame is a shark. Absolutely, I want to know why Hashirama decided to split up the tailed beast like he did. And these problems only get worse when you consider the filler. See, if Naruto's manga has a problem of introducing cool characters and abilities that it never fleshes out, then Naruto's filler had an addiction. Naruto's filler introduced things like the Kaguya clan, whose genjutsu was so powerful it was able to create whatever was actually being envisioned in the genjutsu, something that only Kaguya can do. Because of this, every couple of generations in the Kaguya clan, they would give birth to somebody who could just vanish things off the map by envisioning them in a genjutsu, which is just creation of all things but applied out to a universal scale. And not to mention the filler also introduced things like Fury, a technique that allowed for 4 people by releasing their chakra simultaneously to decimate a village-sized area with relative ease. And don't even get me started on characters like Yota, a character that was able to manipulate the weather, something that only the Ten Tails and Shibai have ever been confirmed to be able to do, obviously outside of Kirin, and was also just Naruto's first friend, kind of flying in the face of the idea that he was lonely as a child. And don't even get me started on the smaller villages bordering Konoha, like the Land of Grass, or the Land of Hot Water, or the Land of Iron, where a bunch of samurai apparently live, and nobody talks about it. There was obviously more things that Kishimoto could have fleshed out, and probably wanted to, but his editors needed him to finish the story in 700 chapters, so he couldn't. It's not...
Imagine that, like, you got a world that you want to build, and it's like, don't have time.
A hot take. Everybody agrees. D tier. Let's move on to... Dwanced Martin 3429, who says that Kaguya should have been hinted at in the war arc and actually become an important villain in Boruto, which I've never heard before. And yeah,
I
basically
like
what
it.
I believe Dwanced is driving at here
I
is
like
that there was
it.
really no reason for Kaguya to be introduced in the war arc.
Yeah, they
and
could
that,
just
in fact,
beat Madara
introducing
and
her
then...
during the war arc is wasting her character. And no,
I like it.
I agree with this.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about Kaguya.
I like
she
it.
was sealed by Hagoromo and Hamura. Obviously, the chakra of the Ten Tails was sealed inside of Hagoromo, while they were also making her the center of a 6-pass Shibaku Tensai, essentially generating what would become the entire moon around her. Now, obviously, what spins out of this is Black Zetsu jumping out of her sleeve and trying to get somebody to awaken the Rinnegan so they can call the Ghetto statue back down to Earth so that the Ten Tails can be reawoken and its chakra can be given back to Kaguya, who can then rampage against the Earth, eat the chakra fruit, and move on to another planet. But what if instead, at the end of the 4th Great Shinobi World War, Madara remained the final villain, and Madara was defeated by Team 7, much in the same capacity that Kaguya was defeated by Team 7. And the Ten Tails chakra was pulled out of Madara just like it was pulled out of Obito, and all the tailed beasts return. Naruto and Sasuke have their big old scuffle, and Black Zetsu is probably taken care of. Let's say taken care of. Black Zetsu is exercised, but the damage that Black Zetsu has done by allowing Madara to open Infinite Tsukiyomi is irreparable. That is to say that Madara is defeated, Black Zetsu is defeated, Sasuke comes back into the fold, but as Naruto is ending, we see the moon begin to crack.
Yeah,
that'd
that'd be...
like an Attack on
Titan,
when the
yo!
wall cracks, we see
Yeah.
the Titans in the walls. And thus Naruto ends with a cliffhanger of something incredibly powerful emerging from the moon, which obviously the entirety of the 4th Great Shinobi World War has revolved around because Madara was trying to reflect his Rinne Sharingan off the moon in the first place. And thus Kaguya could be introduced down the line in Boruto as possibly Shibai, right? Because think about it conceptually here. While Shibai is technically an Otsutsuki who ate so many chakra fruit, he ascended into his own dimension as a god, Kaguya is also kind of the god of Earth. She's the reason humans have chakra. She created ninjadom as we know it, and she's the progenitor of some of the most predominant bloodlines in history. I get the idea of introducing her as this all-knowing, all-powerful god Naruto, then the realization in Boruto that she was actually low in the ranks of Otsutsukis sets the stage for increased scale, but the motivation of Shibai coming back to Earth to destroy it is just less than that of Kaguya, and thus Kaguya is an overall more compelling character. This is S tier. This is an S tier hot take. I hadn't even thought of this. This is incredible. Let's move on to our 4th hot take, which is from Taina de Souza.
Yes.
8955. Pretty sure I nailed that. Who says Neji's death was tasteless. He died in the same way his dad did, protecting a main branch Hyuga. It should have been Hayashi instead. Hayashi dying, saving the son of his twin that died to protect him, would have been poetic. And listen, This one's interesting, because the idea that Neji's death is stupid might as well just be accepted fact.
Yeah.
We all completely
We
know and
all
acknowledge the fact
hate
that Neji died in order to make Naruto and Hinata closer, so that their relationship and romance would make more sense down the line. We can sit here and make the argument all day long that Neji had enough chakra to either use a rotation or just any version
a lot
of
of
8
things we could say
trigrams,
about this
64
situation.
palms to knock away some pieces of wood. Now, the only argument against this working is that Neji was possibly out of chakra, and the wood was too big to redirect with the 8 trigrams. As we had already seen multiple Hyuga members use air palm to redirect these giant wood splinters as opposed to 8 trigrams. But still, then you could make the argument that Neji should have just simply used air palm, or Hinata should have just simply used air palm. And thus the reasoning surrounding Neji's death makes even more sense the more you look at it. But that's not the hot take, we all agree. But the second half of this comment, I haven't necessarily heard before, and I quite enjoy. You see, because I never really considered the fact that Neji did in fact die the exact same way as his father, Hizashi, by putting his life on the line not only for a main branch member of the Hyuga, but the leader of the Hyuga, as Hinata would go on to become the princess of the Hyuga and take over the mantle of head of the Hyuga clan. Now, obviously, at this point in time, Hinata wasn't the head of the main branch, but she was still main branch royalty. And Neji and her's relationship was very similar to that of Hayashi and Hizashi. So while technically Neji jumping in front of Hinata is meant to show that he's accepted his fate and he's taking his own life into his hands to protect the people he loves, that is kind of exactly what his father does. And it's also what made Neji jaded as a child. So while there is kind of a beauty in Neji understanding what it is to love your family and put your life on the line for them in this final moment, and thus in this final moment, Neji is no longer resenting the main branch family or his father's death, as he's choosing to go out the same way, which is kind of beautiful if you think about it. I do think it would have been more compelling narratively if it was actually Hayashi who put his life on the line for Neji and Hinata and Naruto. Though, my god, would it have looked incredibly silly if Hinata jumped in front of Naruto trying to die, and then Neji jumped in front of her, and then Hayashi jumped in front of him. It's like, hey guys, if there was enough time for 3 people to react to these wooden spikes, why didn't Naruto just move? And if it was actually Hayashi who put his life on the line here, there could have been a beautiful moment where he grabs Neji by the face and says, "You look just like my brother, god, I miss him so much," or something like that. And in that moment, Hinata would have had to step up as the new head of the Hyuga clan, which would have been a really beautiful moment for her. And therefore, I do kind of agree with this take, but only because the poetic nature of Neji's death is so lost on your average Naruto fan, because we're also wrapped up in how he died, not why. Because Neji's death is actually very beautifully poetic if you go past the whole he's a toothpick holder thing. Plus, I think the impact of Hayashi's death would have been equal to the impact of Neji's death, and it probably would have propelled Naruto and Hinata into smushing eventually anyways. So I'm gonna put this one low B tier, lower than the light novels take. Now with that sorted, let's move on to our next take, which is given to us by Lubbers825. There we go, that's a name I can say. And this one is short and sweet. Might Guy should have been a pot of ashes. Now, while some people will tell you, well, everybody feels this way, this isn't a hot take. No, they don't. There are many people who are very happy that Might Guy is still in the story. But let me tell you, right now, he shouldn't be. I am in blind agreement with Lubbers. See, here's my thing. If Might Guy were to bounce back after this battle against Madara and learn how to fight with half a foot, then absolutely keep him in the story, so long as he stays relevant.
Ruined his character, man. Absolutely ruined it. Like, he went from, like, having his epic... Like, we've been... From the beginning, we know, through Rock Lee, that Guy's the same. And he's struggled. And he competes with Kakashi all the time. Built up slow progression. He finally proves himself to be, like, one of the strongest ninjas in the world. Madara even states it. And then... Naruto just goes, okay, you're back. And then he ends up in a wheelchair doing nothing. Like, nothing. He becomes like a gag character, and it's just like... the sacrifice should have just stayed.
Though I would hate to see Kakashi lose his husband, not only loses half a foot, but also loses all plot relevance after his battle against Madara.
Well, because we haven't even seen Kakashi in Boruto either, so, like, what difference does it make?
And thus, in the only moment that we've ever truly seen the 8 gates open, not including his father Might Die, of which he definitely did die, Might Guy more embodied the name of his father than his own father, because while he might die, he didn't. And thus the gravity of this moment is unfortunately lost on us. My guy loses half a foot, which would just make him the greatest NFL kicker of all time. But then the man dedicated to youth and the perseverance of soul is wheelchair bound for the rest of his life? You're telling me Mike Guy wouldn't figure out how to walk with 1.5 feet? In the 7th gate, he can walk on air. See, well, it's not dumb to me that Mike Guy survived. Everyone loves Mike Guy. Who wants to see him die? And it's also a moment for Naruto to show his ninja Jesus Sun Seal abilities so that it can be explained how he's able to save Obito later on. And that's literally the only reason they did it, so that Naruto can save Obito later on, and everyone's like, oh, okay,
Makes
I guess
sense.
he can do that. But for Mike Guy to continue on in Naruto in the capacity that he's continued on makes me believe he should have died. And I'm not saying that, like, oh, he's handicapped, kill him. That would be awful.
No,
So, how's that leg doing?
Great, never better.
Good. Why don't you try putting some weight on it?
Sure. Yes, oh, that's good.
But what I am saying is that his injury sidelining him for the rest of his entire life just isn't in line with who Mike Guy is. And yes, he walks on his hands sometimes, but it's Mike Guy. Half a foot wouldn't slow him down. I mean, we got Hashirama cells, Shinobi wear, and full-on cyborgs. Get the man a prosthetic foot.
Yeah, what?
Because
Yeah.
while it is a popular hot take, it's also still incredibly
It's so
correct.
true.
Let's now move on to Itachi Uchiha Mangekyo, who says as much as we all hate Danzo, he's still a very, very well-written character. This one was written for me. I can't help but feel like this one was written for me, because this comment has put me in a complex. See, I absolutely agree with this hot take, but I've also been screaming about how Danzo is my favorite villain on this page for 3 years. And so I don't know how common this hot take is, because I yell it louder than everybody else.
Okay, I see what
because
you're
here's
saying.
the thing. The fact that the entire Naruto fandom hates Danzo proves that he's well written. Oh, who's your
I
least
think
favorite
so.
character?
I think it's great. Yeah, everyone absolutely hates him, and that's the point. You're meant to hate the guy. You're meant to. It's like, yeah.
After Naruto, it's Danzo. Good. It should be. He's a villain. He's supposed to represent government and how it corrupts absolutely with only their interests in mind. Naruto as Hokage is supposed to act as a juxtaposition to this, as Naruto frequently acts with the best interests of everybody in
Everyone,
mind. Danzo's perpetual self-interest in only Konoha created the Akatsuki, led to an entire village hating a baby, led to the foundation of thousands of childhood assassins, and also led to the foundation of Nue, who went on to attack the village. On top of this, Danzo also single-handedly basically orchestrated the Uchiha massacre. Everything Danzo ever did in the
It's just
self-interest and
not
preservation of
cool,
Konoha
man.
led to it being undermined. And this has led to a lot of people hating Danzo as a character. But that's what you're supposed to do with villains. And while sure, Danzo in his final moments has a little moment where he's like, oh, I never caught up to you, Hiruzen. They never try to make him a broken hero. Yes, is he doing what he believes to be correct? Yeah, almost every single villain is. But even in the face of a massive failure, every single time he tries to do something he believes correct and very much realizes probably isn't, he perseveres and messes things up even worse.
Well,
Without
yeah.
Danzo, Naruto would have grown up a regular child. The Akatsuki never would have been founded. Sai could have grown up with a brother. And oh yeah, the Uchiha probably would have had a conversation with Hiruzen that would have resulted in peace times as opposed to the coup. But complete selfishness to his own ideology and blind loyalty to
Just took
Konoha,
over.
time after time, destroyed pieces of Konoha. And he got away with it because
Yeah.
that's what governments do, until a rogue shinobi, a rogue asset, took it upon themselves to take out
him
that government.
out.
He is the best written villain in Naruto and is possibly one of the best written characters in Naruto. S tier take.
Boom.
But I might be biased. I'm gonna do 2 more
I-
because there's 2
yeah,
of these
I'm on
comments
there.
that I find very interesting. Next up, we have Bean Crusader 9243, who says that Shikamaru should have been the housewife and Temari should have been the breadwinner. It just makes sense for who they are as characters, and honestly, I tend to agree, and I've also never heard this said before. Boruto's complete and utter dedication to making every single woman from Naruto a housewife and therefore no longer a shinobi is baffling.
Yeah.
The only women who break out of the housewife mold are Ino and Sakura, and neither of them are even shinobi anymore. Sakura just runs the hospital and Ino runs the sensory core. But at least they leave the
They
house.
do stuff,
Hinata
yeah.
and Temari, 2 of the most powerful shinobi on Earth, just become housewife
It is mad. Temari was something else, and then it's just like, yeah, okay.
one day. Which, like, listen, I get it. They had a child. Somebody has to raise the child. And in the case
Do
of
they not
Hinata,
have
her
daycare?
being the housewife makes sense. I'm sorry. Her husband is Naruto. He's the strongest guy on Earth. He shouldn't be making PB&Js. Now, do I think women have the ability to be a mother and something else simultaneously?
Yes.
Yeah. My mom did it, but is that the way that things go in Naruto and Boruto? No. Now, technically, the argument behind this is that the thing that they would be on top of a mother is an active soldier in a very dangerous world, and nobody wants to orphan their children, which is fair, I guess. But within the context of Temari and Shikamaru, it's very much been established from the jump that they are just about equal in terms of power. Shikamaru's smarter, obviously, but Temari's no slouch when it comes to intelligence, and her sheer offensive firepower completely blows Shikamaru's out of the water. On top of that, Shikamaru hates doing things.
That's
But
true.
he's kind of needed. See, with the death of Shukaku, Shikamaru's father, Konoha needed somebody to be a strategist. And actually, not just Konoha, the entire world needed somebody to be a strategist. See, because after the conclusion of the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, the Shinobi Alliance becomes the Shinobi Union, which is a 5-country agreement to not do war. It's essentially the UN. And Shikamaru, straight out the jump, is assigned as the head of it, which then obviously leads to Shikamaru becoming the assistant to the Hokage for Kakashi, kind of, and then the assistant to the Hokage full-time for
Naruto.
Naruto. And with some of the more recent reveals in Boruto revealing to us that the Naruto clan are either doctors or politicians usually, Shikamaru becoming a politician kind of makes sense and is in line with not only his clan's ideologies, but also his possible trajectory. Now, am I saying that Temari should not be a shinobi? No. Her kit is one of my favorites in the entirety of Naruto. I love her summoning. But is the intrinsic value that Shikamaru brings as a politician to Konoha greater than what Temari would bring as a shinobi? Maybe. But is it technically more in line with both of their characters for Temari to be the one out and about mucking things up with her wind while Shikamaru stays back with the kids
Yes.
and makes lazy dad meals? Kind of. And that's why I love the feminist energy behind this and the fact that it takes character analysis into the equation. I'm gonna have to give this one a C tier. Just on account of the fact that if they switched roles, it'd probably be worse for Konoha as a whole.
True.
As it currently stands in Boruto right now, Shikamaru was one of the 3 people who have figured out that omnipotence wiped everybody's memories and made Boruto a bad
Genius.
guy when he's not.
Genius.
Which, while I love Temari, isn't probably something that she would have come to the conclusion of. Which brings us to our last hot take, brought to us by Mihalos4876, who says Izanagi and Izanami are actually pretty good parts of the story and are not only made for plot armor. And Mihalos, my God, do I disagree. But I will give you props because I don't know if I've ever heard anybody trying to defend Izanami and Izanagi before.
Never.
See, here's the thing. The introduction of Izanagi and Izanami does bring up some interesting talking points late in Shippuden. It makes Danzo's fight more interesting, it makes the battle against Kabuto more interesting, but it also introduces so many problems into Naruto's story. See, technically Izanagi was introduced first, and I believe the introduction of Izanami made Izanagi a more compelling ability, as it was explained that when Izanagi was figured out, people would continually use Izanagi to battle back against their fate, which is why Izanami was introduced. And thus the idea that the Sharingan was too sacred to waste was introduced, and that's why Izanami exists. Now, this makes sense. If I was introduced to an ability that made me go blind in one eye but allowed me to not die, I'd probably use it. And the counter also
Yes.
makes sense, as the Uchiha clan view their Sharingan as basically a holy relic, and thus the creation of Izanami to stop people from rallying against their fate kind of makes sense, until you realize the usage of Izanami in itself is highly hypocritical. See, using Izanami to stop somebody from using Izanagi blinds one of your Sharingan. And the ideology behind using Izanami to stop somebody from using Izanagi is to stop them from wasting their Sharingan. Now, there's also the aspect of it where you're railing against your fate and that you should accept your fate and live your life as it was meant to be lived, which is what makes the introduction of Izanami a bit easier to swallow, but at its core, it's hypocritical. On top of this, the introduction of Izanagi in the capacity of Obito's fight against Konan is just plot armor. Like, straight up and down plot armor.
Like,
Also,
if he didn't have it, he'd be dead.
Introducing an ability that only costs the blinding of one Sharingan that allows you to essentially become God for roughly a minute isn't a great idea as a storyteller, because people like Danzo get to exist. There was a character in Obito, the first person to ever use Izanagi we ever saw, who had a cave full of eyes he could use for Izanagi, and we don't know if that cave got destroyed.
Oh, yeah,
So
what
no,
happened to
it's
that?
never a good idea to
What
introduce
happened
a
to
plot
that?
device that could possibly be used endlessly to make somebody a god. Because now, anytime a problem arises, the entire fan base is just gonna go, why aren't we Izanagi or Izanamiing this away? So, this one is F tier. With that, that's all the hot takes that I got time for, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for giving me your super hot flames, and I hope you enjoyed me, I guess, kind of ranking them in this tier list. And if you guys did enjoy this video, tell me down in the comments below, and maybe we'll possibly make a part 2 to this. And while you guys are down there,
That would be fun.
please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go film this exact same video for the Weeb Commander.
I'm intrigued to see if it's Naruto based or I need to check out the Weeb Commander channel and see if there's stuff that I would like to react to there, because I do find NC Hammer very, very entertaining and informative. I find it very informative, the stuff that he comes out with. I don't agree with everything he says, but I think that is always fun as well for the discussion. So cool. Thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video and want to be able to watch patron-only reactions, such as the original Dragon Ball series, link is in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all I ask to help support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. And if you want to see my videos early, click that join button, become a member, and yeah, you get to see my videos early. And then there's other live stream things you get, because the live streams are coming back next week. So yeah, cool. And yeah, what did you guys think of that? If you guys think of this, click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys, all you guys, next time.